Hi, Jewish Mom. So this week I'm going to do something unusual. I'm going to put together two things, two different aspects of this pep talk, which are completely unrelated, but these are both, one was an article and one was a kind of part of a class that I heard this week. And these are both things that I really, really have been waiting and want to share with you so badly that I'm going to squish them together into the same pep talk, as illogical as that is. Okay, so the first thing I want to tell you about is that I read an article, an amazing article, in this week's Ami Living. I highly recommend that all of you go out and buy Ami this week just in order to read this article. It's an article, an interview with a psychiatrist named Dr. Naomi Greenblatt. The article's called "Treating Women in Emotional Pain." So Dr. Greenblatt, she is a reproductive psychiatrist, specializing in the religious community, and she herself is a religious mother, she also is the reason why Ami happens to be featuring her right now is because the Greenblatt family has been in the news recently because Jason Greenblatt, husband of Dr. Naomi Greenblatt, he is a very, very high up person in Donald Trump's company, and he has become now like the go-to person for Trump for everything related to Jews and Israel. So he's been in the news a lot. So it happened to be that Ami through that I think heard about the wife, who is quite a well-known person in her own right, and I found this article really, really fascinating. It's about how hormonal changes and the different parts of the reproductive life of women, and how they affect us emotionally and psychologically and psychiatrically, I just found this really fascinating, and it's a very long article, but I'm just going to read to you like a few like very small sections, just to give you just what for me were kind of highlights. The interviewer asks about possible causes. She talks a lot about postpartum depression in the religious community. And so Naomi Greenblatt says, and I think a lot of this is not things that we already know these things, but I think it's so important to hear them again and again and again. She says regarding postpartum depression, she says, if you want to talk about risk reduction for postpartum depression, I'll tell you what I think is the most important thing: sleep, sleep, and sleep. I can't emphasize it enough. If you compare a woman who's nursing a baby every hour and a half to a woman in a Competitiveness home, that's like a Beit HaChlama, kind of like a rest-up home after women give birth. In Israel, it's called a Beit HaChlama. Who tells them, comparing the woman who nurses every hour and a half to a woman in a Competitiveness home who tells them to take the baby to the nursery at night and feed the baby a bottle of formula so she can get 7 hours of sleep. She's obviously going to be better protected. So I know it's incredibly difficult, like right after a woman gives birth, to get sleep. It's almost like saying, like, what, you're asking the impossible. But I really think that this is something that we need to make, a priority. Just really, she says, especially in the first 24 to 48 hours, she says we're most at risk for developing severe postpartum depression in the first week or two. So especially in that very, very vulnerable time when like right after the baby's born, as much as possible, try to get more sleep than you than you might naturally let yourself. Okay, 1 second, and going on. So she says. So then the interviewer asks, is there any aspect of our lifestyle, of like the religious lifestyle that you feel exacerbates these issues, right? Like issues like psychological issues. So Dr. Greenblatt responds, well, regardless of whether someone is modern Orthodox or Hasidish or Yeshivish, my advice is the same. Don't look to the right and don't look to the left. Just look at yourself and try to live the best life you can. That's 50% of the battle. What I mean by that is that if your neighbor has 10 kids and does chesed and works full-time and you're struggling to raise your own 4 children, don't feel bad about that. Your neighbor has nothing to do with you. Just concentrate on your own life and your own successes and strengths and make the decisions that are right for you. To repeat, just concentrate on your own life and your own successes and strengths and make the decisions that are right for you. I laugh, she continues, I laugh when my clients tell me they're starting to clean for Pesach when it's still Hanukkah, or their freezers are filled with blintzes for Shavuos a month ahead of time. My Pesach cleaning doesn't start until Purim, but that works for me. Life is not a competition. All we can do is follow our own destined path and live up to our own potential. You don't have to be doing what everyone else is doing. You just have to be comfortable with what you're doing. While none of this is going to affect a person's biochemistry, there's no reason to add unnecessary pressure. The whole thing about the biochemistry is that, like, full-blown depression is something that's only going to happen if a person has a biochemical predisposition to that. Okay. And then something interesting she says is so the interviewer asks, many women are too hard on themselves. In what areas do you find they are most competitive? So Dr. Greenblatt responds, it's not career related. Like the way that we compete with one another, at least among her clientele, it's not career related. And most women want to feel like they're geschickt. So if I understand correctly, geschickt, for those of you who don't know, and I hope that I know, if I'm saying this, I hope that I'm translating this correctly. Geschickt is someone who's a really amazing balabusta, someone who has like a spotless house and like all of her, every meal that she makes is beautifully plated and gourmet, and on Purim then she makes these amazing shalach manis, and everyone mishlochei manot, and everyone who gets them says, wow, aren't the Cohens amazing, and Mrs. Cohen is so amazing, she just is so put together, and look at her kids, the kids look perfect, and that's geschickt. And I think it's something that we have such a Yetzer Hara for. I know with me, and I'm really quite the opposite of geschickt, but I can just see like how that really brings out my insecurities when I see a person who is more kind of a balabusta than me, more geschickt than I am, and most people are more geschickt than I am because I'm really not at all. That it really I appreciated this. This musar, like this advice, to not be looking to the left, to not be looking to the right, to just like think about me and my abilities and my limitations, and stop competing and stop feeling inferior because this one to the right and this one to the left is more geschickt than I am. So moving on to the second completely unrelated thing I want to tell you about. This week I listened to a great class by Miriam Swerdloff on the Ashes Chayil hotline, so she was talking about, she's a Lubavitcher, and she was talking about how she had been hosting a bunch of shluchim, like Lubavitch emissaries in her home. And she said like that she had one who was there from Zaire in Africa, someone who was there from Cambodia, someone who's there from California, someone from France, someone from Argentina, and she was saying that we can look at these people who are shluchim, people who are emissaries, and these very very end of the world, very end of the world kind of places, and she said, and then you can think, well, what does it have to do with me? Like, well, I'm just living a regular life, living in Passaic, or living in Crown Heights as she is, or living even in Jerusalem. You can kind of think like, well, I'm not living, what is my shlichut? Like, what is my shlichus, however they pronounce it, okay? So she said a beautiful thing, and actually brought tears to my eyes. So I know, whenever something brings tears to my eyes, I know I have to share it with you. She said that that she thinks that her shlichut is just to be in her home and just to be nice to her family. And she gave several examples. She said that she has a son named Yassel, and actually I know Yassel's wife Hindel, who is my neighbor in Jerusalem, and so she told a story that Hindel is very health conscious kind of person. Hindel's an amazing person. So Hindel doesn't prepare fried foods. She's very into healthy stuff, according to her mother-in-law. So every time that if Yassel, he often travels with his work. So Yassel, Mrs. Sweardorf was saying, so Yassel was visiting America, and he went here and there, and then he comes to Crown Heights and comes to his mother's house, and he said, Ima, did you make me the fried eggplant? That it was like 10 in the morning, but he's waiting for his fried eggplant that his mother made especially for him. And she said he so looks forward to that fried eggplant because he doesn't get it back home. Hindel doesn't make it for him. But I take 20 minutes and I stick it in, cut up some eggplant, put it in the egg, put it in like the breadcrumbs, fry it up for him, and it just means so much to him. It's like his mother loves him. His mother took those 20 minutes and dedicated them to him and to something that he wants. And she said also, like with her husband, like let's say a husband, your husband comes in, you get off the phone with your mother, you get off the phone with your sister, you get off the phone with your friend, and you talk to your husband. I felt like it really moved me, just like because when we think about these people doing very dramatic things in the Jewish world, like the person who is the Chabad Rebbetzin of Cambodia, so then you think, well, look at her, and so much mesirut nefesh, so much self-sacrifice, and what a dramatic way of serving the Jewish people, but it's such a beautiful way of thinking, like just that that we in our lives, that we can be on shlichut in our lives, being nicer to our family members. And even if we are, probably many of us already are at that level, that we're doing nice things for our families, we're doing nice things for our children, making the time to spend with our husbands, even when it's not especially convenient for us. But to appreciate, like, that is our shlichut. That is our shlichus, however you pronounce it, shlichus. And so it's like I thought that was a beautiful thought. Okay, so in conclusion, I love this article by Dr. Naomi Greenblatt, and like what she says, 3 main points. She says a lot of things. You should read the whole article, but 3 main things: get enough sleep. If you want to be emotionally, psychologically, psychiatrically healthy, the number 1 thing you can do is get enough sleep. As hard as that is, do what you can to get more sleep. The second thing is, this whole geschickt competition between, like, she's more of a balabusta than me and I'm less of a balabusta than her. She says, stop it. Stop the competition. Just what we can do, she says, 50% of the battle is just being us and just living our lives without looking this way and without looking that way, and just being complete and being at peace with who we are. Okay? Easier said than done. So then I talked about with Rebbetzin Sweardorf. So we hear about all these, Chabad shluchim in these far-flung locations and doing these amazing things, working in these with tremendous mesirut nefesh. And she says, so what is our shlichut? What is our, like, we are emissaries of what? If we're not in like Phnom Penh, and we're not in Kinshasa, Zaire, and so what is our shlichut? Our shlichut is here with our families, to be just a little bit nicer, a little bit thinking, what nice thing can I do for my child, for my husband? What can I do in this home, to show my family more that I love them, that I care for them, that I'm there for them. Okay, I want to bless all of you JewishMOMs with an amazing week. Kol tov.